Hi, I'm Mark Chaplin, co-designer of Lifeform, and I'd like to talk to you right now about the secondary role of the Starship's mainframe computer. It's also a video in which there will be featuring a beam of light that I can't seem to stop, and I will say a lot. So without further ado, we shall continue. Okay. In the previous video, as I stated, we had a design problem whereby you want the crew players to always be engaged in the game, but I wanted a game where everybody could possibly die. That leaves you with a situation where you don't want people sat out, but what do you do? So that's where we've got to the position of secondary roles. Now, when a crew player is left with no more crew characters, they're left in a position where they can pick one of the two secondary roles. The first one I talked about in the other video is the ship's cat, and in this particular, the final role they can choose is the mainframe computer, called Sister. Now, what that means is, unlike the role of the ship's cat, whereby you interact with the alien by moving about the starship with a ship's cat token and then playing an action card that might harass it, or the alien is entranced or mesmerized by the cat, the functionality of the cards for the mainframe computer is slightly different. Now, again, these are what you would expect of a computer system, and this video is not going too well. So when you're killed by the alien creature slash lifeform slash star beast, when you're dead and you have no more crew players that you can use, the player is then in a position to choose either the system mainframe, which is these action cards, or the, as I mentioned in another video, this ship's cat. So they got a choice, so they can take one or the other. Now, the main difference being is that the ship's cat moves a token about the starship and can interact with the alien, and some of its cards, you know, the alien has to be in the same chamber as the cat, and the alien could be mesmerized or spooked or generally annoyed by the cat. Now, the starship's mainframe has slightly more actions, and some of them are more powerful, though they're all situational. I'll give you an example of what some of these are. Now, it activates security bulkhead doors, which obviously can be very useful for protecting the crew in some way. You know, someone's running down a corridor trying to, the alien's coming behind, and the mainframe computer player goes, "Sorry, I'm closing a bulkhead door." It can reroute power. That can be incredibly useful. So darkened area of the starship suddenly become lit. Very annoying again for the alien, but great for the crew. It can upload files to the shuttle's database, which has no functional use for the main part of the game, but if a fight ever occurs on board the shuttle between the surviving crew and the alien, that could be damn useful. It can override safety protocols and switch off a localized gravity generator. That's one of my favorites, actually, allowing the mainframe computer player to scatter tokens hither and thither away from the chamber that was affected by the gravitic power down. It can auto load emergency shuttle supplies. Some of its actions are deck specific. I don't know if you're familiar, but the ship is broken into three main zones: A deck, B deck and C deck. A deck is where they start, that's the mess, the kitchen, the sleep pod areas, etc. B deck is more of the mining side, the ore processing, the refinery part of the starship, and C deck is the claw room, the engineering spaces, and machinery areas, etc. And so some of these, the mainframe character player can only reroute power, say on this particular card to B deck and another one C deck. So and they can only do one action per turn. They can pass, they don't have to do an action, and that is basically the role of the ship's mainframe. Quite interesting, and can be very thematic. The secondary roles actually provide a lot of replayability, in that many games, not all of the crew die, and there's no need for a secondary role. But some of the games, and this has happened obviously many times in every possible configuration that you can imagine, suddenly you're down to one player, say in a 3-player game, who is the only person with the sole survivor, you know, trying to collect enough gear to get to the shuttle, and then the other crew player is playing the computer, and they're desperately shutting bulkhead doors, they're rerouting power, they're trying to auto-load shuttle supplies on the shuttle, and they're mobilizing remote or refinery crane systems to try and annoy or harass the alien, and you can end up with some very you know, cinematic moments within what is basically, you know, a board game. So it, you know, it makes for fun times ahead. The main thing I'm trying to emphasize is there's a replayability aspect there. The game is kind of sandboxy, unlike a lot of games, in that you can do whatever you want within the sandbox of a mining starship, and obviously everybody's maneuvering where they want, and where you end up with, let's say, an inflection point is where, say, somebody's died, then they've got a secondary role they can take. It is possible, and it's happened many times, where, say, in a 4-player game, one crew player is the only one with a human member of crew left alive, and then you have the cat and the mainframe computer both trying to help that person win. And if you're familiar with the game, you'll know that one of the objectives of the structure of the game, because it's a team game, is that the crew team win. They only have to get one survivor off the doomed mining starship. So everyone else, it doesn't matter that they haven't got any crew. They can also help slightly in the main fight at the end if that situation occurs. So that's basically, in a nutshell, the mainframe, the starship's mainframe computer secondary role. I hope that was of interest to you, and I didn't waffle on too long. So I'll no doubt see you in another video.